Hello there, this is Critical from Critical Media, just taking a look at the 2025 Omnibus release of Daredevil by Nocenti, John Romita Jr., and, Keith Pollard's name should be here too, because he does have a lot of material in this book too. And what we usually do at this channel is give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across these books in the wild. So we go over the exterior, some bonus material, art and plot points, and then a brief review at the end. Now, just to maybe frame this book for a lot of folks, this pretty much is encapsulating and finishing off the 80s. So this is like a lot of content from the 86 up until 89. And it does come off the heels of the Frank Miller run. So if you maybe need some background, I would suggest maybe having Volume 1 Frank Miller run read, maybe half of Volume 2, because that goes up until the 80s, and then jumping into this one here. But anywho, yes, Ann Nocenti, she has a lot of a political background when it comes to her writing. It definitely shows when you read this. She's very thought-provoking. She's very of the times and of the moments. You can tell she was reading the newspapers a lot. And heck, she has a lot of background in journalism as it is. So it only seems fitting that she also wrote for Daredevil here. But anywho, at least back to the nature of this channel. At least walking over the exterior here. Yes, you have this obvious prominent cover design here by Romita. Yeah, Typhoid Mary and Daredevil here. Personally, I'm not really the biggest fan of these little quotes from other publishers or whatnot, or news outlets. Like, this stuff I feel should be on the back, but it is kind of true. It is somewhat overlooked in Nocenti's run. I mean, Ann Nocenti was more of like an editor of Marvel at the time. I know her more so from being like an editor during the whole Fall of the Mutants thing. Which, by the way, some of that material is actually in here too. But anywho, at least in terms of the spine design, very prominent, and I like the profile. And very similar to older Marvel Omnis, it will have the, at least, issues that you're coming to expect if you come into this book. So you have that expectation of issues you're going to be covering. So I definitely appreciate when Marvel does this kind of thing. Now, underneath the dust jacket, surprisingly a bright design, and it does take another Romita pose and panel. Basically, the wraparound image is that of Daredevil versus Punisher, so pretty impressive there. The book itself is about 750 pages-ish, I'd say. Yeah, okay, my apologies. It's actually 830. Okay, a little bit more. But still, it's meaty enough that it's impressive. But as you can see, nothing really going on in terms of the spine design. But now, in terms of bonus material, admittedly not too much going on. It is what you're expecting, so just a lot of cover design and whatnot. But pretty awesome covers. Yes, I can't help but always appreciate something to do with Jerry Ordway, so I noticed it right off the bat. I know Jerry Ordway heavily because of Captain Marvel, my favorite. But anywho, you're just getting more so of the time interviews from Nocenti, which I kind of appreciate. They don't use the more modern takes or interviews. They use the ones from back then, which makes a lot of sense considering all the background and upheaval that sometimes this story arc kind of brought up, right? I mean, Daredevil in general has been very controversial, let's just put it that way. But a lot of his groundbreaking work really does take place in the 80s. But maybe just to give you an idea of the table of contents before maybe jumping in a little bit further. You can kind of see what I mean, where it does start off with 86, which actually the book doesn't even start with Ann Nocenti. It actually starts with other writers and actually Steve Ditko at the beginning, which is surprising, like this issue here. And it goes all the way to 89. But you will get a few other creatives, like I mentioned. It's like the very first issue here, it's Steve Ditko's art. It's actually Mark Gruenwald, though, on the story. And it does harken back to that old Captain America villain, Madcap. I wouldn't even call him a villain. He's just an anarchist, straight up. Just a very enigmatic character. He has a lot of tones of the Trickster from DC. It's a bit ironic that I'm bringing that up since there is a character called Trickster in this series a little bit later. But basically a guy who, he feels no pain. He has an incredible healing factor. Possibly even better than Wolverine's even. And on top of that, he can make people go insane. But I kind of like the ground that this book covers, or this story covers at least, because, like you're getting an insane character. Nobody seems to be able to figure him out, not even Daredevil. And even by the end of the narrative, everybody's still asking questions. pretty much in line with the lunacy of this character. But another issue that you can absolutely tell is another Ditko. Yeah, it has that Mr. Hyde character, another classic Daredevil foe, just dealing with the idea of what he prefers to be, the monster or the human. Obviously, you're going to think of which one he goes with here based on this kind of panel design here. But still, it's still impressive that they cover the kind of ground they do in that narrative. But now comes Ann Nocenti's beginning on the run, right? With Barry Windsor-Smith, no less. So not even John Romita, not even Keith Pollard. In this case, Barry Windsor-Smith, that awesome writer as well. And it deals with this, I guess, PTSD narrative with this character, Jack Hazard. Basically a fallen soldier. Yeah, they tampered with him with the whole super soldier idea. They were trying something else called Project Reptile. So it didn't really have good effects on the mind, let's put it that way. And I like how you see this twisted form of patriotism. The guy is a patriot. He's so much of a patriot, he will not harm any other Americans. Almost to the point of creating a very tragic ending, let's just put it that way. If I flip the page, you'll kind of see what I mean. And that's one thing I like about this overall Omni and this overall run by Ann Nocenti. This is her beginning of her at least run, and she does make an awesome reference a little bit later, because this does tend to have reverberating effects for Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow there. But yeah, you're kind of seeing striking art from Barry Windsor-Smith. I wish we saw more of him on this book. It's not to say it's a bad thing. You get other awesome artists. It's just, man, I really wish we got more of him in this one. That's just my own 2 cents. But another idea is just getting used to this version of Daredevil. Since he's kind of walked away from his Matt Murdock persona, now he's just working in a kitchen. He finally has Karen Page back, and he's just about, you know what, this almost hedonistic lifestyle, just, you know, live life as much as you can kind of thing. You know, he has what he wants. He has Karen. He has Karen clean from drugs and all that. So he just wants to live as good a life as he can with her without upsetting her too much. And yet, Ann Nocenti, the great writer that she is, she still manages to bring things to a head. And it's kind of inescapable, ultimately. So definitely appreciate the kind of ground she covers. Another awesome idea she had here was this character, Rotgut, this guy here. It's kind of like a germaphobe, kind of like a straight up OCD character. He was, you know, shut in. Basically, he doesn't believe in anything to do with going outside. He feels like everything's a danger to him. Even the idea of like race swapping or even mild mutations, like this married bride here. He's obsessing that she has a birthmark and therefore she has a defect. And he goes out to kill her. Like he's pretty damn scary and pretty damn imposing. So like I said, this narrative, it's just, I love the kind of ground it covers, because you get a lot of, you know, where Matt Murdock is in his life at this point, working at the diner, that kind of idea. The fact that even his close friends, they have flaws too. Like I said, it's a pretty nasty narrative with this character. Any sort of problem you have, he just somehow takes it way too far, this psycho. So like I said, kind of an intriguing work nonetheless. And speaking of which, I kind of hinted earlier about that character, the Trickster. Again, you're getting this awesome design here. And this is like more so like the Keith Pollard era of the book. Yeah, you are getting some other artists as well. But yeah, like the kind of ground she's covering. Like the Trickster character, you don't even know what he really is. He just seems to be impervious to pain or whatever. And yeah, that narrative is just off the walls, that's for sure. But they're almost always trying to parallel what's going on with Matt Murdock these days. Like I said, he's walked away from his persona. It's almost like all these different characters are kind of tapping into this missing quality that Matt Murdock threw away when he just adopted being Daredevil all the time. And no less than this awesome story here about, just this greedy corporate fat cat, and he's taking abuse over his employees. He's firing them all for nothing, just for profits. One of his employees goes nuts and becomes the caviar killer, as you're seeing here. But I love this narrative too, because this one's a lot about the image you can convey. Sure, you can have all the right intentions, but if you don't convey a proper image, the media can spin it in a different way to you. And that's kind of what this narrative is. It's just reminding you that, hey, Daredevil may be a hero, but that's not how the media is seeing him. And they're seeing this straight up murderer being a hero to the everyman. like I said, this story tackles a lot of intriguing ground, and I like the whole cathartic moment of it. Very impressive work by Nocenti. Like I said, you definitely can tell she has like a journalistic background because she looks at other animas or different kind of atmospheres that are going on at the same time, you know? So definitely appreciate how she approaches storytelling. Very impressive work. But nonetheless, as you kind of filter through the book, you're kind of getting, as I said, other artists too, like Keith Giffen here. I would admit, not the most impressive artist on the book in contrast to everybody else in it, right? But still, you are getting some awesome ideas here. And here's, for instance, forgive me, Rick Leonardi, that awesome artist here. And this is, of course, yeah, you're seeing the inclusion of Wolverine in the narrative, just chasing after Bushwhacker, yet another awesome idea. I think I neglected to mention, this is also the same book that has the, I guess, one of the most groundbreaking works on Sabretooth, actually. So it's actually quite much earlier in the narrative here, yes. This is like during the whole, Fall of the Mutants storyline. So this is actually one of the most paramount issues if you ever want to know about Sabretooth. This was actually one of the earliest takes where you actually understand his modus operandi. You know, even before they truly connected the dots between him and Wolverine. So you get to understand way more about him than normal. Not to mention, he's as savage as he is, he does have somewhat of an honor streak. But yeah, I just felt the need to go over that before even digging deeper into this, Wolverine issue. Because one thing I liked about Rick Leonardi is this pose that he managed to capture, that almost every Wolverine artist will try and mimic, and his version is awesome as always. Man, I love this silhouette image. You will see it in Uncanny, you'll see it in other, of course, Wolverine-related material. But anybody who pulls that off well, including Leonardi here, awesome. But yes, as mentioned, this one, it's about chasing down Bushwhacker. Just a straight-up psychopath who's hunting down mutants for, money? I guess a little bit. But he's just a straight-up psychopath in general. The way he kills people, he's a straight-up butcher. And you want him to see his comeuppance so badly. But it does create this awesome dynamic between Wolverine and, of course, Daredevil, where what's justice? Wolverine obviously wants to X him out. Daredevil feels he deserves a chance. After witnessing the butchery, this page in particular, how do you not side with Wolverine is my point. Because justice is going to allow this guy to get out yet again. So it's pretty trippy just to see this kind of narrative or this kind of material being played with. And who better than Nocenti, right? Like I said, she just seems to have a great handle on these very, very core themes and ideas that we all kind of think about and talk about. And speaking of the whole Fall of the Mutants idea, oh, my apologies, that earlier story was Mutant Massacre. This is the Fall of the Mutants storyline, where, Apocalypse finally makes his debut and he shuts down New York and all of its electricity and all the gangs are going nuts. Gives at least something for Daredevil to do during his issues, and you get these awesome, of course, kinetic shots by John Romita, probably one of his best bread and butter techniques. Love the fact that, yeah, he jumps on this book the way he does. Awesome work in general, like incredible. But of course, as you saw from the cover of the book, yeah, this series does also introduce Ann Nocenti's character, Typhoid Mary. Yeah, a lot of you may know her very well, and yeah, this is pretty much her debut here. And what an awesome character. So, yeah, the whole multiple personality disorder concept, the whole pheromone thing she's got going. But honestly, like, one of her best qualities is she's a villain who succeeds at what she's trying to do. So yeah, sure, she's a hitman, but the way she goes about things, she doesn't just kill you. She knows how to target you the right way. So her strategies are very, very important. And you had pretty much her backstory right here in this panel here. But awesome way to handle this narrative. I love the whole way this thing turns out. The way she, like I said, the way she attacks Matt Murdock. She already knows who he is, so she can attack him in very intriguing ways. Even create this whole love triangle thing going on. I love that angle. Such an awesome concept of a character. And you can see how well fleshed out it is, because she has so many different manias, of course, with the whole multiple personality thing. And yeah, this is what I mean by, yeah, she knows how to play the love triangle. She knew how to get to Karen Page so well. And it's funny, this very same event, this particular panel and this dialogue here, it really does have reverberating effects to the whole Karen Page character as you read further on in of course, Daredevil there. But man, incredible work. This series absolutely is a must. If you love the whole Frank Miller aspect, this is such a perfect follow-up. It goes beyond saying, yeah, and Nocenti maybe did get overlooked a bit. Yeah, I mean, she was successful in her own right, of course, but honestly, if this book doesn't capture you, I don't know what will, honestly. Because, yeah, for all the talk about Frank Miller's run, hers was right up there with it. As I said, the kind of material, the kind of ideas and themes she was tackling, she's an ace. But anywho, that's just my 2 cents on the book, as always. I wouldn't mind hearing yours down in the comments but down below. But if you really want my 2 cents, this is an absolute pickup. Well priced at this point, and honestly, the content in it, hell, it's amazing. Maybe you don't always have to read Frank Miller's, but it'll definitely help you ground yourself to this narrative. But still, this is awesome in its own right for the kind of storylines you're dealing with. But anywho, that's just my 2 cents, like I said, and hopefully I'll see your comments down below as always. Y'all folks take care and enjoy the rest of your day.